Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has been abandoned by a top Republican billionaire donor who thinks that the Florida governor has just gotten a little too extreme in the state of Florida with things like book bans and restrictions on abortion. Now, the governor has just signed a fetal heartbeat bill in Florida, which would essentially ban abortions past 6 weeks, meaning all abortions would be banned because most women don't know they're pregnant at that point. Now, the donor who has turned his back on DeSantis is Thomas Peterffy. And he said that he and a bunch of his friends are putting pause on supporting DeSantis over these extremist policies. He told the Financial Times, quote, "I have put myself on hold. Because of his stance on abortion and book burning, myself and a bunch of friends are holding our powder dry." Which I gotta be honest is pretty surprising, Cenk, because when I think of Republican donors, they tend to support the types of policies that DeSantis has championed. They also tend to, of course, love corporate tax cuts for the rich in general. They also love deregulation of companies. You would also think that maybe what's really motivating Peterffy here is the attacks on Disney, since it is a corporation, and Ron DeSantis has been pretty vicious against Disney because Disney had the audacity to speak out against the Don't Say Gay bill. But the fact of the matter is, Peterffy is against what Disney had to say and believes that corporations should basically shut their mouths when it comes to these controversial political issues. So before I get to more details, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed by this story too. There's a couple of different takes here, but first, so he didn't know that the Republican nominee is going to be extreme on social issues. That's the amazing part, and I genuinely believe he didn't know. And the reason for that is that people in the establishment say stuff like that all the time. Like, I think the people that live in DC, I'm not joking, are the most coolest people about politics in the whole country. So, like, just this is a rando one, but Kara Swisher, who's like a really well-known digital journalist, and is a good journalist, asked Jen Psaki, "Hey, how come you haven't had any Republicans on your MSNBC show yet?" Like, why? Would have Jen Psaki having conversation with Republicans help the country? Would it edify anything? Everybody in the establishment still thinks that Republicans are sane. Republican politicians aren't sane. They all believe the most extreme social issues, except a couple of exceptions. That's why those exceptions like Nancy Mace, etc., are constantly in the news, like, oh, a Republican that doesn't hate gay people and that doesn't want to take away all rights from women. That's like a giant news event, right? But yet the establishment doesn't get that at all. It's apparently huge news to this enormous Republican donor.
Right, so let me just clarify a few things. So this Republican donor is based out of Florida, not Washington. I don't know why he's so in the dark about the extreme position, social positions that Republicans like Ron DeSantis have taken. And maybe it's because of the fact that if you happen to be a billionaire, some of these social issues really have no impact on your life. You have the resources to kind of find loopholes to these types of restrictive policies. But the other thing is, if you've had your head down and you're not really focusing on what I believe both parties have been up to in recent years, you might not be privy to the fact that both parties, because of the corruption that of course Peterffy is part of, have kind of moved away from economic issues and have focused heavily on culture war related issues. And if that is what you're campaigning on, you're going to become more and more extreme each election cycle because that's all you're gonna lean into. And that's certainly what I see happening with Republicans like Ron DeSantis. And I think it's starting to get to a point where not only do ordinary Americans find these policies appalling and against our constitutional rights, like book bans are ridiculous, right? But they're starting to question whether the Republican Party really needs to focus on becoming a little more moderate when it comes to these issues. It's become more of a liability in election cycles. For instance, the midterm elections, the abortion policies didn't play so well for Republicans.
Yeah, so look, at least two more things about that. I think the reason why a lot of these powerful people, whether they live specifically in this city of Washington, DC or elsewhere, haven't gotten the memo is because they probably watch mainstream media, and mainstream media will tell you Trump is awful and terrible, etc., but will treat other Republicans with incredible credulity. Like, yes, they're legitimate people having honest conversations, and they're just such good people. These Democrats in power and the Republicans in power are such decent, wonderful people. And that's why, like, when you find out, oh, no, they hate gay people, they want to strip women of all their rights. Like, to us, that's the least surprising news we've ever heard in our entire lives. But to people who watch mainstream media, they're probably a little, I know it seems unbelievable, but at this late date, they're probably surprised by that. This guy's ready to give a bushel of money to DeSantis. He's like, oh, he doesn't like gay people? That's like news to him. Come on, mainstream media. Please stop lying to protect Republicans. Jesus Christ. Okay, and look at this. Every oligarch is a news story. Oh, one of the oligarchs has decided not to support DeSantis. And by the way, it should be a news story because the oligarchs decide elections. But the news stories never say, oh, by the way, the oligarchs decide elections and he's one of like about 200 actual voters in the country, and the rest of you are irrelevant. But I'm glad at least they're covering it. But most importantly, Anna, the deal is fraying, the core deal for the GOP. So the deal was, look, we bring tons of people into the Republican Party with social issues. Oh, Southern strategy, black people shouldn't have the same rights, ballot measures against gay marriage, etc. And you come in and we don't actually do any of that stuff. We just pass tax cuts for the rich. Come for the racism, come for the sexism, stay for the tax cuts. But now that they actually did end abortion, a lot of those donors just care about the tax cuts. They're not that extreme on social issues. And they're like, oh, that's discomforting. It might affect my daughters and my sons and my wife. Now all of a sudden I'm uncomfortable with this deal. Well, I mean, that's definitely your fault because that's the deal you launched to get your tax cuts.
And there might be other motivating factors for this billionaire donor, because if you're willing to shell out tens of millions of dollars in each election cycle, you probably don't want to back the candidate who is less likely to win the Republican nomination. And so he told the Financial Times that he has lost more and more faith that Ron DeSantis could beat Donald Trump in the primaries. So Peterffy said he no longer believed that DeSantis had the same odds to unseat Trump in the Republican primary than he did at the start of the year. DeSantis seems to have lost some momentum. So that could be one of the main reasons, but he's not emphasizing that as much as his alleged concerns about the more extreme social policies that DeSantis has passed in Florida. And as recently as January, Peterffy did tell the Financial Times that he was in fact backing DeSantis and was looking forward to supporting his presidential bid. But now things have changed. He also tells the Financial Times, quote, I am more reluctant to back him, meaning DeSantis. We are waiting to see who among the primary candidates is most likely to be able to win the general and then put all of our firepower behind him. And the firepower that he's referring to is literally millions of dollars. So for instance, back in the 2022 midterm election cycle, Peterffy gave $7.7 million to individual Republicans' campaigns and to conservative political action committees, up from $7.2 million in 2020, according to Open Secrets. Republican donors also have a lot of money to burn. So just to give you a sense of how wealthy Peterffy is, he was actually the richest man in Florida with an estimated net worth of $26 billion, according to Forbes. The title, though, now belongs to Citadel founder Ken Griffin, worth $35 billion, who relocated from Chicago to Florida last year for tax reasons in 2022. Oh, for tax reasons, because of course, I mean, God forbid his $35 billion is impacted at all by having to pay a little bit in taxes. But anyway, he relocated from Chicago to Florida. And in 2022, Griffin donated, I can't even believe this figure, $73 million to conservative campaigns, the most of any contributor. So when it comes to the right wing, the one benefit that they do have is these billionaire donors. I mean, there is, I think, one billionaire donor I can think of that tends to donate to Democratic politicians, and that happens to be George Soros. But fact of the matter is, there's just this handful of incredibly wealthy Republican donors who can really make or break elections. And when Peterffy and other billionaire donors like him speak, the establishment, the Republican establishment definitely listens. And by the way, one final thing I'll mention, during the 2015 Republican primaries, he was supportive of Ted Cruz. He said that Ted Cruz was probably the smartest person running in the Republican primary, and that even though personally, I do not believe that abortion is something that should be prohibited, and I do not believe we should not care about the environment. Nevertheless, I think Ted has the qualities. He definitely has a shot. Oops.
Yeah. So look, that's actually what I was gonna end on, Anna. Like, don't get it twisted. This guy is not a good guy. And he's not right on any of the social issues. And even if he is right on abortion and gay rights or whatever, he doesn't act that way. He gives $70 million to the party, or that was Griffin, but he gives tens of millions of dollars to the party that has passed over 600 laws against LGBTQ individuals across the country in the last 5 years. So if you give money to Republicans who pass hate legislation, don't tell me you're for gay rights, because you're not. And so if you just woke up to one of them being against gay rights, congrats, you figured out the tip of the iceberg. All of them are against it. All of them. They didn't pass 600 some odd bills by accident. The Democrats passed 0 of those hate bills. The Republicans passed hundreds of them. So please stop pretending, everybody, and I'm mainly saying to mainstream media, stop pretending that the Republican politicians aren't the party of hate. They don't pass these bills because they, oh golly gee, did we pick another group to hate on? What a coincidence, 50 years running. Oh, did we build a whole strategy around it called the Southern Strategy? And then we create a thing called wedge issues and said, come on guys, come on. They're the hateful party. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. Or like this guy, you're trying super hard not to know. You gave most of your money to Ted Cruz because you care about what, social issues on the left? No, you care about tax cuts 10 billion times more than you care about any social issues. So, okay, Mr. Oligarch grew a tiny bit of a conscience when he now thinks Ron DeSantis is gonna lose. I give him no cookies at all. And press, figure out that these guys are running the country and start doing all of your news stories about them, because the politicians are irrelevant servants. It's the donors that actually rule us.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.